Penn State disappoints yet again. The Giants are on an absolute downfall and much, much more. Rivals back. Let's go.
What's up, my family? Listen, first-time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby. I'm dying. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Slap.
What the hell was that?
Oh, yeah!
What the f*** are you talking about?
What is up, everybody? Rivals back every Monday at 10:30, and we are brought to you always by Gleason's Bar and Grill. Gleason's Bar is located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Use promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or online. That's Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com. Penn State looked really ugly on Saturday. James Franklin, we're not surprised you didn't show up. You decided to fire your Mike Yursich, your offensive coordinator. Maybe you're not the right answer. Maybe we got to get rid of you too. Eagles didn't play this week. They were on the bye. My Giants disappointed. Basketball is back as always, and some hockey news as well. To kick off, we're going to start off with our poll question. As always, our poll question, Nick Sirianni is the front runner for Coach of the Year. Agree or disagree? Before, did Dan Campbell win it last year?
I believe no, it was Dable.
So that actually answers my question. If you didn't understand, I'm gonna have to disagree to the poll. I believe it's also a conference award where it's AFC and NFC.
No, it's one.
It's just one.
Yeah.
So, but even then, I believe that Dan Campbell should win this award, and people might disagree with me. They might say, "Oh, Sirianni has been the guy this season." And sure, the Eagles have been off to a hot start. You can't name a guy that hasn't been stopped on this offense, and they always fire on all cylinders. This defense looks outstanding. It's everything they've imagined as Eagles fans. But to me, how are you not going to give it to a guy that's literally turned the program around? Last year was mediocrity, in my opinion, for the Detroit Lions. Didn't attain all that success that they really wanted. However, this year, starting off at 7-2, they probably couldn't ask for a better start and couldn't ask for a better place than what they're in right now. I mean, you got a dual threat running back position with Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery, and we saw it exploited this past weekend. With Montgomery taking a 70-yarder, and I believe Gibbs had 2 himself. And even in the air game, I mean, Jared Goff, I said it before the season, he's a top 10 quarterback, and I'll stick with it because even though these guys, obviously Amon-Ra, I think it's arguable that you could put him in the top 10. Laporta, he's making a rookie out of somebody that, hey, maybe fell under the draft radar. I personally knew he was going to be well. Being a tight end out of Iowa always producing these name brand tight ends like TJ Hawkinson and George Kittle, but he's doing it with not that many weapons. And outside of those 2 receivers that I just mentioned and that dual threat running back, there's not much else. In short, four threats out of the backfield, both out of the backfield and in the air, is a lot, but as well, their defense is producing. And Aiden Hutchinson has been a beast ever since he made it to the NFL. He's looking great, looking like he's going to put himself in this conversation for Defensive Player of the Year at some point. But, yeah, I'm going to have to disagree and obviously foreshadow that my midseason year Coach of the Year is Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I will say Sirianni. I'm going to have to agree to the poll, disagree with you. I think it's Sirianni for 2 reasons. One, I believe he's done his job, as you said, and losing your 2 coordinators and still being 8-1 is definitely something to be proud of. And honestly, shocking. I understand the talent on the team, but if you told me we're going to be 8-1 the start of the season, I would think you're kind of crazy. The other thing I think he should win it is because he didn't win it last year. If you're one of those voting fatigue kind of things, I then understand why you wouldn't want to give him this award 2 years in a row. I understand the voting fatigue aspect of things. As far as I'm aware, I think it was really close between him and also Brian Dable too. He doesn't get enough credit. I think people kind of, just look past it, and we give Jalen a ton of credit for his progression and his growth throughout the years and all he's done. But I think, something's got to be said about the fact that I get it. They were better and they drafted better ever since Sirianni was here. Same time, though, it seemed that Hurts took the leap the second he got here. And I get it. You're not giving him an award for the last 2 years. You're giving it to him now. He has yet to receive that credit on its own. Forget the award. I think in the city, even, I don't think he gets enough credit. So, yeah, and the other thing is we're winning in different ways. We see it every week. Sometimes it's a shootout. Sometimes our defense looks like shit. And sometimes to grind it out, a hard-fought game on the ground, and our defense is carrying us to a win. So winning in a whole bunch of different ways. He hasn't won it before. His own offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator aren't here. My prediction, my midseason winner is Sirianni, but I do believe with these next 5 or so games, you're going to Kansas City, you have San Francisco, you're at Dallas, you're at Seattle, and at home against the Niners. I mean, this is a tough 5 stretch right now. This could definitely fall into him. If we go 3-2 in the stretch and we lose 3 games, maybe he's not the coach of the year. But I think these next 5 games says a lot about where he stands in that race for sure.
Sure. So with that and our coach of the year predictions, let's get into the midseason awards. Let's start off with defensive player of the year. Now, I'll say it. I think it's got to be Myles Garrett. And when you talk about a defense that, sure, maybe they've got a bunch of names. They got Owusu Karamoa. They got Garrett. They got Zadarius Smith. I believe they got a guy that Denzel Ward in the secondary. They got Juan Thornhill. They got a very good defense. But to be a top 5, maybe even you could argue top 3 right now, defense in the league, if you told me that before the season, I would have said you're crazy. I would have said the reason this team is winning games is because of their offense. And it's honestly not. I mean, Deshaun Watson hasn't looked all that great. And you could argue Amari Cooper's been pretty good since he's made this return from his injury. He does look like a new player. Nick Chubb went down, and Jerome Ford filled his absence very, very, very well, if I must say. But this defense has been standing on its head and providing this team to get back in these games. I mean, we saw it this past Sunday. Lamar Jackson torched this defense in the first half, and then to just hold him, I believe, to 3 points in the second half, that's crazy. And Myles Garrett is the pioneer of this defense. He is feared by every single quarterback, every single left or right tackle that has to go up against him. And it's crazy because he is an absolute monster. I remember seeing him, seeing pictures of him without his shirt on, and it was wild. But yeah, Myles Garrett is my defensive player of the year.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'm between him and my winner. I'm going to go Max Crosby. Another guy who's been really good for a long time now and hasn't really gotten this award to really put him on the map with those kinds of guys. You look at dominant defenses and you look at, the best defensive players in the league. You're talking, Myles Garrett, you're talking Watt, you're talking Micah Parsons. These are guys that are on the best defenses in the league. So I think it's easier to hand them the award and say that they've been the best defensive player on the best defense.
Sure.
I see where you're coming from 100%. I'm going to give it to Crosby because his tackles, he is tackling guys in open field. And I looked at his stat. I don't have it in front of me right now. He's, around him, Watt, and Myles Garrett, they all have a kind of similar sack statistics in terms of per game, total, all those things. He separates himself as an open field tackler and, solo tackles and all those kinds of things. He is a threat. I feel bad for him because, who the hell else is even on their defensive line? It was going to be Chandler Jones, and then that experiment clearly did not work out. And, pass rush even, I don't know who the hell they have. So he's putting up all these stats on a team where every team goes into it playing the Raiders, and they're saying, how do we stop Max Crosby? I don't think the list goes any further than that.
No.
So I think he's my winner right now. He's overcoming a lot, and his stats kind of separate themselves compared to Watt and Garrett. But I definitely see.
No, that's very valid. From defensive player, let's move on to offensive player of the year. My offensive player of the year, I'm gonna have to go with McCaffrey, and this is hard because you have a guy with Tyreek Hill that is putting up just video game numbers. I mean, he's going for 8 receptions, 200 yards a game, and it's like, holy crap! How do we stop this guy? He's running circles around the defenders, and he is the favorite right now. Do I think he has a great chance to win it? But I'm going to stick with Christian McCaffrey because I believe he hasn't had a season where he's been this healthy, and he hasn't had a season. He just stopped that streak of, I believe it was 17 or 18 straight games. He was about to break the record, consecutive games with a touchdown. But he's got to win the award this year just due to his consistency, his ability to stay healthy this year. And he's just an absolute monster in the backfield, both as a pass catcher and out of the backfield. So Christian McCaffrey is my front runner for Offensive Player of the Year.
I'm with you 100%. I think he makes it ride. That offense way better. You saw it last year before and after him being on the team. I'm going to go with a guy that you mentioned. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. And yeah, I assume you're probably going to say AJ Brown.
I thought you were going to say it, yeah.
I'm trying to. Are we doing like mid-season predictions? Like, are we predicting, or is
no? We're doing like our favorites right now.
Okay,
we're not doing like predictions.
All right. So to me, I think that it's AJ Brown. If we're doing like that right now, I don't think he has this in him to keep it up the rest of the season. But I think it's him right now because he has been. If you ask yourself, what has been the most consistent, best team in the NFL right now? To me, it's the Eagles. And outside of offensive line play, I think he's been, or Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, I think he's been the most consistent player and by far their best threat each and every week. He's shown up every single day. So for me, I'm going to go with AJ Brown for Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah, and I get it, the Tyreek Hill thing. I get it, the McCaffrey thing. I just think that when you ask yourself, he is the number one option, the number one threat, and has played an unbelievable season on what currently is the best team in the NFL. Now, when we look back at this and we look at the schedule that's coming up, will he keep this up? I don't think so. And for those reasons, I think it will eventually go to Tyreek Hill. I think he'll always put up stats no matter what, the way he plays. It's just easier to get it, scheme ways for him to get the ball. I think that, for that reason, he is better than AJ Brown, obviously, and I think he will get the award. But if the season ended today, going into week 11, I'll give it to AJ Brown.
That's fair. For my defensive rookie of the year, I'm going to have to, and it sucks, I'm going to have to say this, but Jalen Carter, the favorite, and I believe he will win this award. Now, I was going to try and make an argument for Devon Witherspoon, and don't get me wrong, he is having a great season, and quarterback is by far one of the hardest positions, if not the hardest position to play in the NFL. I mean, you talk about, there's probably 15 guys that I can say are hard to guard, and then there's a little drop-off, and any guy can give a quarterback a hard time any given week. I mean, we saw it. We've seen it now many weeks. But Jalen Carter has just been wreaking havoc in backfields. He's been getting through offensive lines. He's been breaking even double teams. And he's going to keep on doing it just because there is guys around him that can cause commotion. I mean, you see Jordan Davis. You see the edge rushers the Eagles got in Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham. They got a lot of guys that will even draw eyes from these other offensive linemen that Jalen Carter can just sneak right through and get to the quarterback, cause havoc in the backfield, stuff that running back. So it's pretty obvious it's Jalen Carter right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it is Jalen Carter. Very impressed with Witherspoon. I was kind of questioning the draft pick to begin with, honestly.
Sure.
So definitely, eating shit on that one. That was pretty good selection. They seem to be pretty good. He seems to be pretty good. I'm going to go with Jalen Carter for the sole fact that I believe, his ratings right now are great. You look at, Pro Football Focus, they have him as, the top ranked or rated defensive tackle. That's great. All those things are great. He's not even starting right now. I don't know if anyone realized that. He plays obvious passing downs. He plays third downs. But in going into the first drive of the game, it's always Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis playing the first few snaps of the game. And even then, sometimes you see Milton Williams go in ahead of him. It only makes you think that maybe they looked at this schedule, and they seem to do this a lot, especially with the offensive and defensive line, really defensive line more than anything. They look ahead at their schedule, and they kind of save guys for the second half of the season. We saw it a lot with Chris Long, and, last year they added Robert Quinn. He was horrible. But so I think they're saving him for this run. I think those stats will eventually come to fruition. He'll play more. He'll play even more third downs than he does already, and he plays a lot of them. So to say that, I don't know if his stats are saying that he's been the best defensive rookie. No, but he's been the most impressive, I think. Well, I guess you could flip that. His stats aren't that impressive, but he's been the best. He looks like he's the best defensive rookie on the field when he steps on it. But yeah, hopefully they start playing him soon because the pressure rate has not been great the last 2 weeks. Hopefully he'd help that out, I'd hope.
Yeah. All right, before we get into Offensive Rookie of the Year, we're going to take a quick commercial break, so we'll be right back.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor,
and fun.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
Go check out Royal Billiards for all your man cave needs. Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think, is a pretty much shoo-in right now with CJ Stroud. I mean, he's been opening eyes.
I don't know. We might get to this conversation later. We will get to this conversation later. I don't know. I don't know about this.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, why don't we open up the conversation?
All right, we'll open it up now. I don't want to, whatever. Spoiler alert. I mean, right now, let's be honest. In terms of stats and in terms of guys who are making their team better in a way that, they weren't last season, I saw it on ESPN a little bit today. I mean, is he the MVP of the NFL right now? And this is coming from somebody who I didn't think he'd be a great NFL quarterback. I really didn't. Another guy was wrong. That's why I'm not an NFL scout. But, who has honestly been consistently as impressive. And a lot of that, I openly admit, a lot of that has to do with some voters fatigue with Patrick Mahomes per se.
Sure.
But, even Jalen, I'll admit, he has not looked great every game of the season. And he hasn't been the reason that we've won most of our games. And when I watched Houston play, and I get it, they're not the best team in the NFL, and they might not even make the playoffs. But if we're ending the season right now, he has consistently been the best player. And every game in which they win, it seems like it's because of him and the performance he had. And in the games that they lose, I don't feel like it's his fault at all. So I kind of do feel like if the season ended right now and we're giving a midseason award, I think he's got to be the MVP.
It's not very far-fetched, and I mean, I still have to think about our MVP, so we're going to do a comeback player of the year before this. But CJ Stroud has just opened many eyes, has gone against this Ohio State quarterback. Once they get to the NFL, they can't play in the NFL. I mean, we've seen it with JT Barrett. We've seen it with Haskins. We've seen it with who's another Ohio State quarterback that is
JT Barrett never got his shot, but
there's just has been many Ohio State quarterbacks. They get to the NFL, and then there's this contingency that they don't perform, they don't translate it to the NFL. And CJ Stroud is opening all eyes. He's shocking all odds, and it's crazy to think that he's doing this with a team that didn't even know if they really wanted him. I mean, Davis Webb, he didn't perform all that bad last season. I mean, they could have rolled with him, and C.J. Stroud could have went to another team. Who the hell knows? But C.J. Stroud is doing this with guys like Robert Woods, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and I'll foreshadow because I want to give a good Texans reaction, but Dalton Schultz needs to get some more recognition because he was really needed on that Cowboys offense, and we saw Jake Ferguson do it this past Sunday. But C.J. Stroud and Dalton Schultz, they have a great connection, and it's because Dalton Schultz needs to be considered as a top 10 tight end. Now, this defense is very bad. It's abysmal. They're not going to win games because of their defense. What they're going to need to do is C.J. Stroud is going to need to keep up this performance. And if he does, if he keeps on going, he needs to be considered for MVP. And I know it's crazy that you're going to consider a rookie for MVP, but at this point right now, I'm going to have to agree with you. He does deserve it. He needs to be in that conversation.
I think he is the MVP, and in this model where I think he is the MVP, I'm not predicting he will win the MVP. I think it will go probably to Jalen or maybe Mahomes again. Maybe Lamar if they figure this thing out, but I don't see that happening. I think it will go to Jalen or Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day. He will get Offensive Rookie of the Year. But in this case where he does win the MVP, Stroud does win the MVP, I think it's got to be Nakua. He's 6th right now. I just looked in receiving yards and total receiving yards, and seeming to be very, very impressive and a true number 2, maybe, who knows, eventually a number 1 receiver in the NFL.
Could they move Cobb?
I mean, I wouldn't, but we'll see about that.
I don't think they should.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but we'll see about that. And I think every dominant team now, unless you have a Patrick Mahomes, which they don't, needs to have 2 guys dynamic on the offensive side of the ball at some position, and they have them. I don't think they should do that. But, it's got to be him for me. 6th in the league in receiving yards. That's all I need to hear, so I'm with it.
Yeah. Moving on to comeback player of the year, and I saw Matthew Walsh said in the comments comeback player of the year is Tua, and I believe he is the front runner right now, but I'm going to go with Lamar. And Lamar had an injury-ridden season last year. He didn't perform all that well, and the Ravens, I believe, still got to the playoffs. They still had Huntley, and maybe it was Josh Johnson even quarterbacking them at points last year. But Lamar is even in the MVP conversation right now, and you could argue that his receivers, the receivers from last year have gotten better, but they haven't been all that great. And Odell just got in the end zone, I believe, for the first time this past weekend.
Yeah.
Mark Andrews, honestly, hasn't been all that. I haven't seen him touch the end zone many times. It's been a lot of Lamar and Gus Edwards read option, or Lamar chucking it down to a guy like Rashad Bateman or a guy like Nelson Aguilar. Lamar moves in the pocket very swiftly. He makes the plays, and I think he's the front runner for comeback player of the year. However, it would not surprise me if Tua were to win this award.
I'm with you 100%. We're agreeing a lot today. I was going in probably with a hot take. I thought it was going to be Lamar. I didn't think you were going to say it.
No,
I agree with you with Lamar. And to me, it's the way he's playing. And this is kind of a tough time because he just threw a pick 6 to lose a game yesterday. I understand. But, I mean, it's the way he's playing. He's not running the ball as dominantly, nearly as he has in recent years. And he's still doing it at a pretty high clip compared to the rest of the guys in the league. He's seeming to be a much better pocket passer. I'm forgetting which game it was. I believe it was the Pittsburgh loss they had earlier in the season. He was tossing the ball out, throwing absolute dimes, and guys were dropping passes all over the place. So he's seeming to be a much better passing quarterback, and that's something to see. Yeah, we'll see. It's seeming to be something that he improved in a lot. Maybe worth that contract. We'll see how his body treats it as years go. But, I mean, they're still 6-3, I believe, right now. They still sit atop of that division and one of the better teams in the conference. If they stay that way, if they win that division, I think he should win this award. But I think we all know who's actually going to win it. But that's another topic. But, yeah, I'm gonna go with Lamar for the winner.
Yeah, and then MVP is very hard right now because there hasn't been a guy that has all opened my eyes, and the odds makers currently have Mahomes and Hurts as the favorites. Um, and I'm gonna go with a guy that's, it's kind of a long shot, and I guess this is more of a prediction than a midseason award. My midseason award would go to Jalen Hurts, as I believe he's carried his team obviously to the best record in the NFL currently, and has balled out with the weapons he has improved their status. I mean, AJ Brown, I believe Luke had him in the top 5. I believe I had him at 8. He's definitely a top 4, top 3 receiver right now in the league. But if I had to do a prediction, I believe Joe Burrow is getting hot at the right time, and with 8 games left in the season, these odds and these players, they could change their odds and could improve, or who knows, disimprove. So Joe Burrow, I'll have to take him. He's been on a tear. He's been getting back in the win column, and it's interesting now because you got a very competitive division in the AFC North, where you got the Ravens that just had a brutal loss to the Browns, and then the Bengals had a brutal loss to the brutal loss to the Texans,
right.
and then I believe the Steelers hung on Sunday. It's a very tight division, and it's going to come down to who outplays the other quarterback in the division. Can Lamar outplay Burrow, or will Burrow?
I believe they play this week too. That's a big one. Yeah,
it is a big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a prediction of Joe Burrow to win the MVP.
Yeah, my prediction will be Jalen Hurts. I think that we are about to witness, his reign in this next 5 games that we're about to see. This is his MVP level run. If we go 4-1 on this run, maybe 3-2, as long as he's impressive in all the games, I think that we can come out of this, maybe with a 4-loss season, 3-loss season, and he comes away with the award. I do see Ted in the comments saying AJ's one. I just said that an offensive player of the year. I think it would be him right now if it were to be somebody. I do think CJ Stroud probably is my current, if the season ended today, MVP. As I said earlier, he's been really, really impressive. I will go with Jalen to be my prediction. However, I believe the current rankings of this award, if I were to end this today, would probably be at 1, I'd put CJ Stroud, and honestly at 2, I'd put AJ Brown, because we currently have the best record in the NFL, which is normally what happens in terms of when the season's over. Whoever's the best player on that team is normally the MVP favorite or one of the favorites. And as of now, week 11, it is him. He's been the most consistent. He's been the best player on what currently is the best team and record in football. I don't care what anyone says, we have the best record, and he's been the most consistent. Will that continue, and will he be second on my MVP list at the end of the season? I would say definitely not, but I guess we'll see. But Jalen is my prediction to be the MVP.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna wrap up the NFL midseason awards, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
In our family, food is our daily bond. My Nonna, affectionately called Mama by many, found solace and joy in the kitchen, sharing her love through delicious creations. She turned her culinary passion into a flourishing business alongside her husband and sons in 1983. Celebrating 40 years is a testament to our exceptional team, friends, family, and beloved customers. With gratitude, we look forward to the future, expanding our brand to share the highest quality Italian food and wine nationwide. Our heartfelt thanks to everyone who has played a part in our story. Grazie mille.
All right, so we just wrapped up our NFL midseason awards. Now we're going to touch on the awful performance and the future of Penn State football. Luke and I were both in attendance this past Saturday with the abysmal showing from Penn State. I was just at a loss of words. I mean, if you told me going into this game, Michigan is going to score 24 points J.J. McCarthy will have 80 passing yards. I would have said we're going to win. And you cannot point fingers at – actually, sorry. You cannot point any fingers at anyone because it's everybody's fault. Because how do you not realize they're running the damn ball? They ran the ball from 7:37 in the second quarter till the end of the game. They did not throw a single pass. That's embarrassing. The defense should be embarrassed. The front seven should be embarrassed. That's for starters. You want to talk about a team that was ranked as the top 5 defense, and you're going to go in and just not be able to stop the run. You're not a top 5 defense, and you're not going to show up in big games. You're not going to win these big games. So why even show up? And I saw today a player on the defensive line, Devon Ellis, came out and said, "Why are you guys booing?" We're not booing you guys. We're booing the coaching staff because that offensive play calling was horrendous, and the defensive play calling is horrendous. Stop the damn run. Stop the damn run. Stop focusing on the pass. J.J. McCarthy, I get it. He's going in first rounds in most mock drafts. He's a very good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But when they're running the damn ball 5 damn times in a row, you got to be expecting a run. You got to guess run. I get on offense, you don't bite downfield. I played the game of football. You don't bite downfield on defense. You need to start biting downfield when you're getting the ball ran down your throats. That's for starters. For second, Drew Aller, if you're going to be ranked a 5-star quarterback, please show up to big games. Please, I'm begging you. That performance on Saturday was one for the ages. I mean, how do you not, hit your guys? Even on that third, I believe it was a 3rd and 7 to Caden Saunders, and he threw it behind him. Now, thank God Caden Saunders caught that ball, because if he didn't catch it, the stadium would have went fucking ballistic. Yeah. Because Drew Aller looked terrible. He looked terrible. And the fact that he's getting comparisons, he's got the stature of Josh Allen. He looks great. He doesn't look all that good. He does not look good. He hasn't shown up against Ohio State or against Michigan. So why am I going to justify for him? I'm simply not. Thank the Lord they made a coaching change and decided to fire Yursich. Hopefully Franklin is next, and give Manny Diaz the keys of this team. Please, I'm begging you. Give Manny Diaz the keys of this team, because without him, we're going to go 7-5. We're playing teams like Washington, UCLA, USC, Ohio State. That's 4 losses right there. You're going to go on the road against Wisco and you're going to pull a performance like that? No, you're going to lose. This team will be 6-6 next year if you don't get a goddamn coaching change in the making.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. The only thing, and we've talked about this in the past, I'm not so much on the Aller thing as much as everybody else is. The main problem I have with the Ohio State game and this game is that it's just so similar. There's no sign of improvement or awareness of what went wrong in the last game. That's my problem. They are losing in the same way every single year to these two teams. Every year. And James Franklin has this saying, he's 1-0. My new saying to him is 0-2, because it's a fucking joke. You can guarantee the way the schedule currently is that he will go the 10-2, I guess it is, because they play 12 games, as long as this is the schedule, because he will not win these 2 games. The only reason next year is interesting to see how many games they lose. So that's my thing on that. You look at the Ohio State game. What happened? Defensively, they showed up. Offensively, there was no kind of ability to get creative. None at all. None. Not once. There was not one good play call or one good decisions. I mean, horrible coaching decisions to kick a field goal versus whether it be going for 2. I mean, so many times that they fucked up in both games, in both years. I mean, just an absolute disgrace that he hasn't learned a single thing from either of these 2 games in either of these 2 seasons, losing the same exact way to both teams. I mean, just what a joke. And Michigan last year, you brought up the rushing thing. That's exactly what happened last year. They pounded it down our throats. We couldn't do anything. about it defensively. That was a problem. I disagree with the Alar thing. I'm not defending him because he hasn't looked great and he's expected to be great. And I agree with you there. The one thing I'll say is this, especially when you are 19 years old, going up against a new level of the 5-star athletes, 4-star athletes, the best of the best. You're not in high school anymore. You're a kid. You're 19, 20 years old. You need some kind of development. And that's two things. That's development in the offseason to look better going into the next season. And the other thing is play calling, especially early into a game. I get his completion percentage is not great. They have no ability to, one, get receivers open because they're not good on their own. They can't get open.
Mm-hmm.
And two, scheming guys open or scheming a way of him to get out of pressure or scheming him a way to make a play. He's seemingly to get better and better with his legs as the season's gone on. Where's a single play I've seen once all season that involves him rolling to his right, rolling to whatever it might be to kind of get him moving? Because that seems to be his strength. Where's that? We got to get our guy in rhythm. I get it. He hasn't looked great. And it's easy to blame a quarterback, especially when you put up 9 or however many points they put up in the game.
Yep.
It's easy to do that. And especially, same thing in Ohio State, same kind of thing. My thing is, like, I have no sense of anything that has been proven at any stage of anyone's career being here that he's developed somebody. Case in point, I get it. Sean Clifford had a good career here and he won a Rose Bowl, and that's great. And I think people would say he had a successful Penn State career. He let a guy go who is drafted in the second round. Say what you want about him in the NFL. At the end of the day, he was a pretty good SEC quarterback, and he got picked high in the fucking draft. So that goes to show you this guy needs to know about quarterback play and, his mindset on that. I'm done with it. As much as I think it's easy to blame Drew Allar, I'm not going to. I'm not going to say he's great, and I'm not going to say he's dog shit. I'm going to say I don't know how good he is. And I think he missed any shot he had at him being a first-round pick when it came to committing here and playing for James Franklin. So then this brings up the discussion, and we can have this now. Like, is he worthy of firing right now? Because you play the risk of having a Nebraska-type situation, and you're fighting all these years back. My thing to that is like Michigan a few years ago was dog shit, and you want to bring up their record of being mediocre and not winning the whole thing. I understand that. I'm tired of losing these games. And at some point, Jim Harbaugh flipped the switch, and now they beat Ohio State. Now they beat Penn State, and now they do all those things, and they win. Hopefully they take the next step eventually, win a championship for their sake. But I'm saying for us, when is this leap coming? Because it seems like it's been the same shit for the last 5 or however many years it's been. And I give him a lot of credit for turning the program around. I'm sure that wasn't easy. That's great. All that goes out the window the second you get $90 million. Your expectations are when you get $90 million, you beat Michigan, you beat Ohio State. That has to happen. And until it does happen, I'm going to say you should be fired, and I'm going to say we should take the risk because I want to root for a program that cares about taking the next step, not seeing the same old movie over and over and over again. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. Looking ahead at the future, just looking at 2024 schedule, we play West Virginia, Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois. Sure, maybe we'll go 4-0 against them. Then you have 5 games in a row that are coin tosses. UCLA, USC, on the road against USC, on the road against Wisconsin, at home versus Ohio State, at home versus Washington. And then you play another 3 Big Ten opponents, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland. The future is not easy. It's not looking good for this program. And I'll tell you what, there needs to be a major and drastic change that needs to happen as soon as possible. Because until then, they're not going to flip the switch.
Yeah, and to me, I think that the main adjustment might be to maybe just hire that good offensive coordinator and play call. Because that, to me, is the next step in beating Ohio State and beating these teams. So Yeah, I think that might be the next step in terms of beating these teams and what they need to do to get that, because they're already figured out on the defensive side of the ball. So offensively, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what is going on. I don't even understand. Um, but it'll be interesting with this divisional shift, with the division realignment. Who will be coming in to quarterback these teams like Washington and USC, and like it's the whole future of this program is up in the air, and I'm honestly scared because I enjoy going to these games and I enjoy rooting for this team. But when am I going to have that enjoyment of winning these big games, of making the playoff? Sure, you could argue a 12-team playoff, Penn State has a great chance of making it. They don't have a good shot when this guy is our head coach. They will not have a good shot when this team has the future schedule that we do have. It's got to change sometime soon. I'm tired of it, Franklin. I'm tired of looking ahead. He goes, oh, let's move ahead. We're 1-0. Let's be 1-0 against Rutgers. Let's be 1-0 against fucking Michigan or fucking Ohio State. I've had enough.
Yeah, I'm with that 100%. I think we said all our pieces in terms of Penn State. All we could say for sure.
It's how, like I said before, how are these teams going to flip around? How are they going to transition into the following years? Sorry, we were back having some technical difficulties, but yeah, that's the end of our rant on the Penn State disappointments and this just absolute crapshoot of a team. We're going to take one final commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
Hats.com is the premier destination for quality and fashion-forward hats and more, with designs for every style and trend. Locally based and run by Philly sports team fanatics, Hats.com can help you elevate your hat John. Utilize the easy-to-use guides at Hats.com to find your perfect size and style, and shipping and returns are free. Hats.com. Find yourself in a hat. Use code Philly for 15% off your order. Hats.com.
Yeah, check out Hats.com. Use code Philly for 15% off your order. Looking ahead at some basketball. Sixers have looked pretty promising for you, Luke. I mean, you talk about Maxey finally emerging, finally reaching his full potential, and Embiid being him being a nice compliment to Embiid. And Maxey, I believe, had 50. Yes, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just been balling out, and obviously just tragic with the Kelly Oubre incident. Hope all is well. Hope he's back soon on the court, as he was doing very well for the Sixers. But it'll be interesting for to see how they last down the line and how they last against the powerhouses of the East. I mean, we had a game where Boston was in a close game up until about midway through the third quarter when they started pulling away against the Knicks. Knicks probably being a maybe being a 5 seed, hopefully for my case, as I'm a New York Knicks fan. But just pulling away against them, and then you had the Bucks. Obviously, the Bucks are always very good. Damon's finally shown up, and Giannis is still firing on all cylinders, and it's interesting because now the Sixers are away. They're away from that toxin of Simmons. They're away from that toxin of Harden's, and now it's time to see what they can fully reach.
And that's literally what it comes down to. I think the main thing is, I think people who aren't Sixers fans are trying to catch Sixers fans for believing right now. I don't believe that we're winning a championship right now. I don't think anyone in the right mind is thinking that. But what we do believe is that there's brighter times ahead in the future because we, again, as you said, we do not have a Ben Simmons, a Harden, or a cancer in our locker room, whether it be a million different things, whether it be a GM on a burner account. You can name a zillion things that no other organization has dealt with in the last 10 years, it feels like, that's just holding us back. So I do, when looking forward to this season, it's kind of what's to set up for seasons to come. You take away those cancers, and it just seems like we're playing free basketball like most teams are. And I would say that we're not a cursed organization, and then Kelly Oubre gets hit by a car, and you kind of rethink those kinds of things. But I think it's a combination of getting rid of those cancers in the locker room and also having a coach. It's unbelievable. I mean, I go into every single game now, and I feel confident in what our guys going to scheme up, and we're beating teams in different ways. I think you look at last game, last night, you look at what's been a defensive effort, then turns into, okay, you're going up against Indiana. They score a shit ton of points. Let's make it a track meet, and we won it that way too. So we're winning on a whole lot of different ways. And coaching-wise, it's refreshing to see a guy who seems to be able to coach in the modern-day NBA, not a Brett Brown, not a Doc Rivers. We can move on from those kinds of things and now have a championship-level coach of this recent generation and also get the best out of our guys. That's what I'm really excited about more than winning a championship because I don't think we're doing that. I think we can finally go into an offseason and say, okay, this is what Joel Embiid is. This is what Tyrese Maxey is, Tobias Harris, because I'm confident that with this guy at coach, we are getting the best out of all of them. And then you can have a fair evaluation in terms of, okay, how do we want to treat the trade deadline? How do we want to treat our money? Do we want to re-sign this guy? Do we want to bring this guy back? How do we want to use our draft picks? So, I think moving forward, the Sixers are in a much better spot. I think this season, albeit 9 games, however many it's been, has opened up a now extra 3-year window to where I don't think Embiid's going to go anywhere. I think he's happy about being here, playing with a star in what is now Tyrese Maxey. And there's reasons to be excited, which a month ago there was none.
Yeah. And they now have, you could argue they have the depth that they needed. I mean, you got guys that are coming off the bench like Batum and Robert Covington providing both length and 3 and D. And then you also got some guards that can play the game with Pat Bev. I mean, just an absolute thug and, just taking what it has to be of a Philly athlete and, just having that strength and having that grit that a lot of these Philly athletes have. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see how they fare down the farther down the line.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Let's touch on the this past week of NFL. So this past week, Thursday night, we had an ugly toilet bowl, like we mentioned this past week with the Panthers and the Bears. Bears getting it done, 16-13 in just an ugly fashion game. We had the Colts get over the Patriots Sunday morning in Frankfurt. Colts were just opening up the game with the Jonathan Taylor touchdown, and that was all the touchdowns. The Patriots with just 2 field goals, and the Colts with just 1 more field goal after that. You had the Steelers and Packers, and honestly a pretty high-scoring first half, and then a defensive battle in the second half with the Steelers getting it done 23-19. Vikings over the Saints. Josh Dobbs. I didn't see it coming. I mean, how do you get traded for a second pick? And it's or not even. I shouldn't say second round pick. He was I believe it was a 5th or 6th, and just now go to a starting quarterback and perform and provide strength to these weapons that the Vikings offense has. It's just truly a miracle for them, honestly. And then you had the Texans in shocking fashion over the Vikings, with the Texans beating them 30-27. The Browns over the Ravens, coming back against them. Lamar was dominant in the first half, and then not present in the second half. And then the Bucs over the Titans. You had the 49ers in commanding strength over the Jags. The Lions and Chargers in a shootout, with the Lions winning on a game-winning field goal. You had the Cardinals winning on a game-winning field goal over the Falcons. You had the Seahawks over the Commanders, and then last night we saw the Raiders over the Jets. So just a lot of interesting matchups, and we now cross the midway mark with a lot of these teams having their bye week, heading into week 11. Those of you fantasy players who are getting on down the strength of your schedule, and you got to win these weeks. You got to have these high name players perform, and we'll see how they do down the line. But it's looking like a possible rematch in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I like that a lot as of right now. I think that those two are the most ready Super Bowl teams, and you don't normally see a Super Bowl rematch, but you also can't normally predict it midway through the next season either. So I kind of do like it. I think that as of today, that would be my Super Bowl favorite matchup in terms of that. So yeah, I guess we'll see it this week.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting with week 11 coming up. But that is all. Before we tune off, we want to do, as always, our shout out of the week. You got one?
I got one pretty simple. I mentioned his name earlier. I'm going to go with Tyrese Maxey. This is my official shout out. Taking the reins, especially, after a tough day, Kelly Oubre and that incident. We're hoping he's okay. But yeah, unbelievable stuff. I think we all expected a jump in terms of stats and in terms of performance, but I don't think anybody, including Sixer fans, expected this. 28, almost 29 points a night, averaging close to 7.5 assists a game. Rebounding numbers are up. Everything is up. The joy is up. I mean, it is a ridiculous time to be a Sixers fan. I am very, very excited that he's on our team. Yeah, and here we go. I mean, we're really going into it now, where we can say we have possibly a cornerstone guy to go along with Embiid. It wasn't Simmons. It wasn't Harden. It wasn't any of these guys. And, I guess we will not wow, they threw pass interference. That's absurd. So, yeah, I guess we shall see what the future holds for the Sixers. Maybe this is the year they get out the second round. We shall see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So that, or my actual shout out of the week, you touched on it earlier, CJ Stroud, and I can't even shout out any New York sports teams right now because they are all embarrassments. But CJ Stroud, just defying all odds, and I can't believe I'm shouting out an Ohio State player, but I am, since Penn State is an embarrassment. But CJ Stroud defying all odds as a rookie quarterback, coming in and just taking the reins by strength and just keeping this Texan team going, making it interesting in that AFC South division. But that is all for tonight. As always, we want to shout out our sponsor for tonight, Gleason's Bar and Grill. Gleason's Bar is located at 6700 Mill Creek Ave in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Use promo code A2D for 10% off your order whenever you dine in, take out, or online. That's Gleason'sBarandSteaks.com. To everybody tuning in, we thank you. We'll be back next Monday, 10:30. We're out.